So going back to the gaze, you know, in some ways I think of the artist in the 18th century, particularly the portrait artist, as maybe the equivalent of the 21st century filmmaker, in terms of how do you represent, or you know, through images represent people, and you know, through the gaze, their gaze at their subject, they're painting their portrait, but also choosing how they represent them in terms of social hierarchy or other types of dynamics. And so, did you always know, like from the start too, that that character was going to be an artist or the portrait painter?
Yes, I wanted to link both a love dialogue and a creative dialogue, and to unveil new power dynamics within a love relationship, but also within a model and artist relationship, or muse and artist relationship. And I got lost again.
The artist is the portrait painter.
Yes. And I didn't pick painting as a metaphor for cinema. Otherwise, I would have gone for cinema. It's just that I wanted to show an artist at work, and not as in a biopic dynamic, where you would look at their journey, their destiny, the fact that they made it in this hard world. It's a very liberal narrative that I don't agree with, especially for looking at women artists who weren't given the opportunity, the education. So fuck the strong woman portraits. But really wanted to show an artist at work on a specific piece with the question that she's going to ask herself, and that she's going to be asked about who she's looking at, because there's two portraits, as you're going to notice. And I was thinking, okay, what would be showing really somebody working, and painting seems really cinematic, and of course, in representing somebody, the issue of cinema and looking at somebody is within. But it's just that, if you pick literature, for instance, you would see somebody. So that's 18th century. That's depressing. That's bad sound design. Or you would have. And I really wanted something to be organic, physical, and also a very intellectual process that we could all participate into, not voiceover shit, really like the color, the articism of that, the depth of those questions.
Yeah, and the process is very much represented as well. And I know that there's a reason why then I'm going to go back to the setting of the film, the period, and this is your first period film. Your three previous ones have all been contemporary settings. And so I know this relates to the artist, but why the 18th century as the setting of the film?
Well, mostly for a matter of history of art, because it was a moment where there was a lot of women painters. There were hundreds of them. Having careers, also thanks to the fashion of portrait, because it was the rise of the bourgeoisie, so it wasn't just the monarchy who could be represented, but also kind of anyone. And so there was a lot of work for painters. And so women, they were allowed to make portraits, they were also allowed to make flowers and animals. And so that also explained. And it was the rise of the Lumière. It was before French Revolution. The women were given more opportunities. So I felt that was the perfect setting to actually invent a painter that would be sociologically true to the time, that would actually exist. And also, to talk about the fact that we are always being told that women's opportunity and women's rights in general. I'm not only talking about the fact that we could be artists. I mean, that's very privileged life. We're talking about the fact that we get the right to do whatever we want with our bodies and everything. That would be linear progress. And this, looking at this particular time, for instance, tells you that it's wrong. There's always this opportunity. It cycles. There's like a rise and then there's backlash, a rise and backlash, and they get erased from our history so that we would not even know that this existed, so that would basically feel always lonely and pioneers. And that's an isolation program. So also wanted to and we're going through kind of the same things, you know?
Well, I was also thinking with Little Women is playing in the theater next door, also a period film that depicts this kind of insular women's world. I mean, a very different film, but interesting to think about how this world of women set in a period setting is very much, not only, I guess, pertinent today, but very much in dialogue with what's happening right now as well.
Yes, because we're going through a moment where there's an opportunity for women filmmakers, and globally also a cultural shift regarding women's voices. And we feel the resistance, and we feel the backlash, and we go through some strong hostility. So it's kind of the same. So it's a good thing, you know, to get transmitted those histories. And you know, that's why I went for the period piece. I have no particular taste for period piece, and I didn't want to like go for my period piece. I just consider it to be the same job. Cinema is always a reconstitution. Ken Loach, it shows us the car that people drive. I mean, it's not because it's kind of embedded in reality, in contemporary Britain, States or France, that it's not all artistic choices. So to me, it was the same job. And the idea is like a lot of contemporary film, they don't look contemporary, you know? So it's not about what you're looking at, it's how you're looking at things. And there was even like a cool challenge in the fact that doing a period piece but was like a danger to make this dusty thing or legit cinema. And it put me in a tension where I was like, this has to be the most contemporary object, the most experimental prototype way of telling a story.
And it feels completely contemporary.
Wow,
I think we're going to open it up to the audience, so as you think of your questions and come up, I think, to the front over here. I'm going to ask one more about working with your cinematographer who you've worked with on all 4 films, and in particular...
No, it's a new one.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
But creating the look of the film, which one is beautiful, but again, it's kind of this contrast between feeling very contemporary and also kind of having the period feel with the candlelight and lighting and the fire.
Well, we dedicated a lot of time to the light, and you know, that's what makes it beautiful, even though it's a word that covers a lot of reality, but and it's a very accurate, sharp, engaged lighting. Our first decision was to shoot digital and not 35 millimeters. Little Women is shot 35 millimeters, for instance. And I tried both, and I really had no doubt I really wanted to go digital because it was about giving back to these women, their presence, their bodies, so it was also about the rush of blood to the cheek. And the dynamic of the digital really gave to their skins, their carnation, this thing, this very dynamic, urgent thing. Still, we had to create this whole world, and we decided, you know, but most of the challenges of the period piece is about the candle. The candle. You could definitely look at all period pieces and just make a hierarchy, like, are the candles in the frame? Are they out of the frame? Are the candles on the big stick? Is somebody holding the candles? Are the candles actually lighting the set, like, you know, barreling them? So they created these optics to actually have the great lighting, or as we did, are the candles like useless? It was like the whole world, the whole room you can't move to, like, I swear. Just for instance, like when they sleep at night, and when Eloise sleeps, and then Marianne goes to get her stuff to write to Joe in secret. It's all like she's just carrying this tiny candle. It was a whole, we couldn't move in that room. It's basically rope light everywhere. And there's also a guy, a Persian, like a guy doing, each time she moves, she's followed by somebody with a light. You know, it's crazy. The light would go in the front of the cat. You know, it's not the sound, it would be the light. It was crazy, and you know, it's the difficulty, because I trust, we talk a lot with the DP, but then I trust Like, I'm not there to check, like, what I'm gonna do with the lighting. So it means I'm basically waiting for hours, because cinema is about time. And that's a strong choice, because, you know, you will have less time with your actors. It's gonna be, and it's, well, I'm a heavy smoker, so I can take the weight. Won't be around very long, but maybe on beauty.
Great. Well, we'd love to take the first question from the audience.